am Jaskrit, and you might know me as a robotics and math guy, but today I wanted to put my math modeling skills to use, um, to applying it to the city of Helena, Montana, where I grew up. And I was inspired to do this by a book called Strong Towns. And Strong Towns talks about how kind of the auto-centric development in the 1900s drastically changed our towns and created more fragility in our towns, meaning that um, in the past, our towns grew up slowly and they were able to kind of maintain themselves through the tax revenues they collected. But with the auto-centric development, cities have been able to get a lot bigger and perhaps bite off more than they can chew in terms of how much they can maintain relative to the profits that they get. And so Strong Towns looks at the metric of return on investment to analyze how towns are doing in terms of the projects that they're allowing. So, for example, if we think of a Walmart coming into town, we want we'd ideally want to see that the tax revenue that the city can collect from that Walmart will be greater than the maintenance liability that the city has to spend in order to maintain all the roads, all of the water pipes, and all of the other infrastructure that allows Walmart to keep running. And basically, Strong Towns found that this ratio is way out of whack in a lot of cities, meaning that in the long term, they won't be able to sustain themselves. However, since return on investment can be kind of difficult to calculate, it requires a lot of variables. Strong Towns offers a simpler metric of value per acre. So, roughly speaking, the amount of tax revenue you can collect is proportional to the value of a property, and and kind of the main kind of cost to a city is you can think of the land area of the city. So, a bigger city will have a greater maintenance cost because that's another mile of road that needs to be in, another mile of pipe. So generally compact cities would be more efficient than sprawling big cities. So we can look at the metric of value per acre to determine how a city is doing in terms of is this a good investment or is this a bad investment, and we can compare different businesses and housing across the city to see how efficient it is. So now let's apply these concepts to the city of Helena. So I was able to find a data set that had the assessment value of each parcel of land in Helena as well as the area of each parcel. And so I could simply divide the assessment value by the land area to get our value per acre. And then I could then graph all of this data on Kepler.gl, which is Uber's open source geospatial visualization website, and I could create the graph you see here. Okay, so looking at this value per acre plot, we can see that the single biggest predictor of value per acre is simply like how far the plot is from this downtown center, because we can see that the downtown has an extremely high value per acre, and then the neighborhoods near downtown have kind of a medium value per acre, and then as you get far away from downtown, we get into the blue zone, and we have like a much lower value per acre. And if we look at other kind of commercial areas, over here we have Costco, we have Super One Foods, we have Albertsons, and so we have all of these businesses, and the first thing to notice is that they themselves don't have a very high value per acre. And it's probably because of these massive parking lots, because all that parking dilutes the value that you get from the businesses. And then if we look at the surrounding neighborhoods, they also don't have a very high value per acre. So we don't get that downtown effect of increasing value per acre for being near businesses. And if we look at this other section of Helena, like around Benefice, Albertsons, we have a few hotels in here. We can see that this area has a decent value per acre. Not that great compared to the downtown, but it's still decent. But the big difference is that the surrounding neighborhoods do not have an increased value per acre just because of these businesses. And that just goes to show that the downtown form of development is really important for for having a high value per acre itself, and then secondly, for increasing the value per acre of surrounding neighborhoods. And if I were to distill down what the downtown farmer development means, I would say the first thing is like mixed use zoning. There's a lot of kind of businesses that like first floor businesses, and then like floors 2 through 5 might be apartments. And this is really powerful for creating these enormous value per acres that you see here. And then the second thing is making it really walkable, because you can realistically live in downtown and you can walk in most of downtown, and it's very comfortable, it's very nice, and you can probably manage a lot of your trips without using a car. And so I think that makes it a more desirable location and drives up the value per acre. And yeah, another thing is just having high density housing in general. That'll just drive up your value per acre. But looking at this downtown a little bit more closely, we can see that it's not perfect. There are some sections where there's a little bit of a lower value per acre. And I mean, some of these are parks, which it's probably fine if parks have a low value per acre, but the other the businesses we see here that have a low value per acre, this is a huge problem. And the reason that this is such a big problem is because we see the potential. Like this location is capable of holding this enormous value per acre, but it's not. And so this is a huge waste of land, and if it was redeveloped in the same pattern as these businesses, like the walking mall, it could generate a lot more money for the city. But instead of getting new development in the downtown or nearby, we're getting development like way out here, and like up here, and just very far from the downtown. And this is just going to make Helena more sprawling, create more congestion on Helena's roads, and just create more of a maintenance liability for Helena in the future. And it's just a terrible idea that we should not be doing. And let's take a second to think about the effects of development on the edge. This encourages car-centric development because those people don't have grocery stores nearby. They have to drive. And so that encourages the development of these big box stores, which, as we saw earlier, are notoriously inefficient users of space. And this also kind of devalues the downtown businesses, which they are very productive, but they can't compete when those big box stores start taking their businesses, and the people driving from far away are more likely to go there for their business than go into the downtown. And it also kind of undermines the value of location where being close to the downtown isn't as valuable anymore as those businesses start to shut down. So I think that this is an unsustainable form of development. The city of Helena needs to reprioritize away from shiny new developments on the edge to focusing more on maintaining and incrementally growing those older neighborhoods in the city center as well as the downtown. And one of the ways to do this is to lessen zoning restrictions, allowing for maybe mixed use um, zones, as well as allowing some of those residential areas to grow to bigger units. So now let's discuss this issue of car reliance in Helena and in Montana in general. While it is true that you essentially need a car to live in Helena, I believe that this is not because inherently due to the geographical nature of Helena, of Montana, and of how vast it is. I think it's if Helena and Montana as a whole was designed around differently, then it would not be so necessary to use a car. Take a look at this map of Helena from before it was redesigned for cars. We can see that there's a streetcar going from kind of C.R. Anderson to downtown, as well as another, as the network extends to like the Capitol Hill area. And there is also a train that goes to Butte, as well as one that goes to Great Falls. This could be what we have today, but our city and our state has been redesigned solely for cars. We need to reinvest in our walking, biking, and transit infrastructure, so we can focus less on the big box stores at the edge of town and focus more on revitalizing the downtown. And along with increasing the abilities for walking, biking, and using public transport around Helena, Helena should also get rid of parking minimums, which kind of contribute a lot to the sprawl of Helena. And this would allow businesses to kind of choose how much parking they want for their business rather than being required to give a certain amount of parking, because the parking lots are just the most inefficient use of land in a city. Thanks for watching. And if you believe that Helena should follow more of the development practice that I outlined in this video, please share this video with your friends living around Helena.